Joining me now, it is great to actually have a real conversation with a colleague and a friend who I'm with all the time on NFL Network, especially on Mondays on NFL Now, which I highly recommend people watch at 1 o'clock Eastern time every day when it is not Super Bowl week. It is the Super Bowl winning coach, formerly the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl 35, Brian Billick. How are you, sir?
How are you doing, young man?
I'm doing well, and thank you for calling me young. I'm always flattered when you play that card. Thank you.
Well, relative to me, yes, you are.
Well,
You're very young.
I understand all things are relative. I truly appreciate it. It was the 20th anniversary, last week, 2 weeks ago? I'm told you guys kind of had a virtual, like a Zoom Ravens reunion party. What was that like?
Yeah, that was phenomenal. There had to have been, I'm going to say 50 of the players, and they just put us all on Zoom, and Kevin Byrne, who was our PR vice president of public relations at the time, kind of three-ring circused it. He was the ringleader, I guess, but it was fabulous to see the guys, and they, it made me feel good because I saw that I'm not the only one that got old. To see those guys, it was great, though. I mean, everybody was there. It just brought up memories of that week and what a special time it was, and to stay reconnected. We just had some great stories. It was really cool. Did Ray give a speech? We did. We had some very emotional moments on it. Some guys really spoke up. Kevin did a nice job of kind of breaking it down and asking different individuals to talk. And Ray, in his normal way, was alluding to how big that was, how important it was, particularly with all the things that had transpired as a team and for him. A couple of the guys. And we talked to, we lost, regrettably, tragically, a few of those players, 4 or 5 over the last 20 years for a number of different reasons. So, yeah, he didn't do the dance, but he got us fired up a little bit. It was great. All right, I'm gonna tread carefully here. I had a former teammate. This was near the end of Ray's career. Once tell me that sometimes Ray's speeches that he would sit in the back of the room and kind of roll his eyes. Right now, I'm not in any way questioning his ability on the field, nor his ability as a leader, nor his ability as an inspirational figure for your locker room. But I have to imagine that on Zoom, when everyone's staring at the cameras, Brian, nobody could do that for the reunion. No, I don't. It was interesting and Ray was very judicious with. He would, during the course of the season, when I was with Ray, maybe twice say, "Hey, Coach, I need to say something." It wasn't like every week or and when he did, it was powerful. So Now, obviously out on the field and that whole mantra and there are times when it's okay. The dogs are out. I get it. Yeah, let's, and some places like a marriage. At some point, there are times you might want to tune it out. But I think for the most part, the players recognized. And the reason you did is you knew that was so genuine to Ray's personality. This was not. I see it now with so many guys doing it. And it's kind of like, okay. Well, that you're not the first to do it, and there's a little pretense to it, and okay, you're thinking that's maybe what you're supposed to be doing. With Ray, it was true to the core, to the marrow of what he was and what he believed. So, yeah, it was usually pretty good stuff. All right, talking to Brian Billick, Super Bowl winning head coach, my colleague at NFL Network. Last question about your team, because it's now 20 years. We're back in Tampa here, obviously for this year's game. I was reading the piece that The Athletic did this week about memories of your championship team with the Ravens, obviously one dominated by Ray Lewis and that defense, and how things have changed 20 years later. And obviously the Bucs have a great defense. The Chiefs have made enough plays, but it's all about the quarterback, the shiny object, fantasy football, the points, the touchdowns, all that. Do you think a team will ever come along again in this offensive era that we live in with a defense so dominant, Brian, that it can carry a team to a championship in this day and age? No. And I say that because, now obviously I'm biased in my perspective to a degree, but you got to remember our championship and then New England's and Tampa's, all three teams were primarily dominated by the defensive side. You also have to remember we were in a void. We were transitioning out of the Montanas, the Marinos, the Aikmans, and we were transitioning into the new, whether it was Mannings and Breezes and that group. So there was a little bit of a void there to where, yes, dominant defense. And we take great pride in knowing, for a lot of different reasons, everybody kept saying, well, you can't say you're the greatest until you break the all-time scoring record and win the Super Bowl at the same time. Well, we did. So that's kind of the benchmark, okay? That's what I was told. That's what it had to be. That all-time scoring defense record, and we all know records are made to be broken, will never, ever, ever be broken. Not the least of which is the rules have changed. I get that. And offense and just what you're alluding to. So that group, I think, takes great pride in that because that is a record that will never be broken. But the gauntlet of quarterbacks that you have to go through today, through the entire season in the playoffs, no, it's a different environment.
I lied. I got one more question about Super Bowl 35 because we were talking about this during a commercial. Brian, do you remember who was the halftime show?
Oh, geez. I have no clue. You're so preoccupied with the fact that it just seems like you're in the locker room for hours no, we were, do we re-stretch? And although I got to tell you, the best halftime locker room story that I've ever heard, Tiki Barber, who I've done a number of things with since, of course, on the Giants side, tells the story. We all know Tiki can be a little irreverent, okay? So they're at halftime. We're killing them. I mean, this game's basically over at halftime. And their offense has got no chance of producing. So remember, Sean Payton was their offensive coordinator. So he gets up at halftime. Tiki tells the story. He says, okay, he's all fired up. Guys, we're going to change the impetus of this game. We're going to totally flip it. We're going to come out. We're going to go no huddle. We're going to go no huddle, increase the pace of the game, and it's going to totally throw them off. And in the back of the room, Tiki, in typical Tiki Barber fashion, goes, oh, great. Now we can go 3 and out faster than we already are. Well, that shot the no huddle speech right out. I went, okay, we're not going to do that.
Thanks, Coach. And it was 10-0 at half, and you guys at the half were in there doing all that stretching and what felt like an eternity. For the answer is Aerosmith in sync with appearances by Britney Spears, Nelly, Mary J. Blige, and Tremors featuring the Earthquake horns, Coach.
Well, I will tell you that my daughters, when you ask them their singular memory of that Super Bowl, and obviously it meant a lot to them, was they got to meet in sync. They just went nuts. I mean, once that happened, they didn't care what happened the rest of the weekend.
Well, Dad won a Super Bowl, and they got to meet Justin Timberlake, and everyone's happy.
That was it.
That's fantastic. Talking to Brian Billick here, my colleague at NFL Network. Let's talk about this game. Cam Jordan of the Saints was on about 40 minutes ago, and he said something surprising. I asked him about the Chiefs not having Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, their two left, their starting tackles, left and right tackles against Todd Bowles in this defense, and he basically said it didn't matter. Said, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and he finds a way. Not that he's Superman, but I said, isn't this the number one story nobody is talking about? And he said, no, I don't think it is. Do you buy that?
Well, here's the difficult thing, because we know the Tampa front is pretty darn good. The problem is, and you're right, with the tackles being out, that I've been talking about it all week long, that, okay, does this change the equation? Because the problem is, I don't care how good your four-man front is. If you only can rush 4, it's almost impossible to fill all the lanes, to keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. If you're too tight, he's going to roll to the outside. If you maintain the edges, you don't have enough, there's just too much space in between for him to step up and take off. So, I'm of the belief that, okay, I can see Todd Bowles going, okay, with these tackles out, let's see if we can get home quickly, because that's the key. Get home quickly with that 4-man rush on the edges. But if we can't, then you got to do a 5-man rush. You've got to keep him in the pocket, because now he can still beat you from there. But if he gets outside of it, you're dead. And the problem is, though, the numbers don't add up. If you give a 5-man rush, then what you can do on the back end, and you got to double Tariq Hill, and you got to double Kelsey, and you just run out of numbers. So this is going to be the dilemma. And it'd be interesting to see early. I can imagine Kansas City's going to get the ball out of his hands early, just to measure, okay, how vulnerable are we with the tackles? But I agree with Cam Jordan to a degree in that Patrick Mahomes is so special. I don't care how good that four-man rush is. There's just too many alleys for him to escape when he has to.
You mentioned the who do you double question. We had that on the network yesterday. Can you pick a poison between those two?
Well, I've said it all week. Defensively, you can take away anything you want. You can take Tyreek Hill out of the game. You can take Travis Kelce out of the game. Can you do both? Okay, now you got a problem. So you're going to have to change some things up. The thing that Patrick Mahomes is so brilliant at, and you got to know, Tampa, I hope, for God's sake, they learned you can't go man for man with Tyreek Hill. I hope we don't see them come out and think, okay, yeah, now Carlton Davis is going to play better and we're going to go man for man with Hill, because it was embarrassing. And when they finally backed off that, then they kind of got it under control. And let's remember, it was a 3-point win by Kansas City. But you can't, like I said, you run out of numbers. So, yeah, so you're going to have to change it up. You want to get Patrick Mahomes to just have to pause a second. Okay, who's not doubled? Where can I go with the ball? Because if he has the time and he can isolate it, whoever's got the one-on-one for that play, that's exactly where he's going to, including McCole Hardman. If you want to double Travis Kelce, you want to double Tyreek Hill and go with a four-man rush, he's going to find Hardman or Watkins. That's the difficult thing. They've got answers for whoever you want to man up.
Talking to Brian Billick here. We could talk the Brady side of it, but I'd rather stick with the Chiefs, obviously, because of your relationship that goes back so many years with Andy Reid. Brian, last year the narrative was, man, it's going to be so awesome. I hope Andy can win one, right? And Andy finally won one. What would 2 mean for Andy Reid and his legacy? And I just, by the way, before you answer, I'm sorry, I just asked a legacy question, which I know can get annoying as we talk about the Super Bowl day in, day out.
Well, it's not annoying, but it's hard to answer. Clearly, getting the Super Bowl last year crossed a marker. Without that, and Andy's had a brilliant career over close to 20-some-odd years. But if it were his fate never to have won a Super Bowl, that would have lingered there. Not that it mattered. Andy's a wonderful man. He's got a faith-based faith-based man that is not going to let winning a Super Bowl or not winning a Super Bowl define who he is. But professionally, that was going to linger, particularly when it comes time to talk about Hall of Fame status, and it's, well, he never won. So that removed the qualifier. So now the floodgate, now to me, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. So it's like, okay, well, if you want to lop the other ones on, that's great. It's not going to, okay, maybe we give it to him quicker than if he gets a second. I think the bigger question that people are having is not does it legitimize or add that next step for Andy. It's how many of these could they possibly get? Because with Patrick Mahomes and the structure they've got going, and I mean, the AFC Championship is going to go through Kansas City for a while.
Until it doesn't, which is when you look back, hey, the Browns had Mahomes out. It's 22-17. It's 4th and 9 with 5 minutes to go. Go for it. And you could derail, like what you said there, what could be something fantastic. It didn't happen, and here the Chiefs are. Before we let you go, Coach, let's do the business here. X-Tech shoulder pads. I know you're working with them. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've been one of the original investors and very proud of it. I mean, small little company 8 years ago, and now we're the number 1 pad in the National Football League. The majority of players on both sides on Sunday are going to be in X-Tech pads. And say in the college rank, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ohio State, where we've become the number 1 major pad in college football as well. And they're available to high school players. And the great thing is, because these are hand-fitted pads, basically. In the old days, if you're a big guy, you got big pads. If you're a little guy, you got little pads. Now you can form-fit digitally with the database we have. We form-fit these pads basically to height, weight, playing position, injury history, level that you're playing at. So you got to protect the players, particularly if you've taken the head out of the game. X-Tech pads is leading the charge to do just that. And you can check them out at X-Tech pads. I beg your pardon. The letter X, X-Tech pads.
Billick.com and use the Coach21 promo code. You get 10% off your order. And when you look back at Super Bowl 35 or any old Super Bowl, you see the guys with the massive pads that almost get stacked above their helmet. It's kind of funny. It is not like that anymore. Brian Billick, it is always a pleasure, sir. I will see you on the television at the other place. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game Sunday.
Yes, sir. You enjoyed as well.
Thank you. Brian Billick, everybody, my colleague at NFL Network and a Super Bowl winning coach who got his kids a chance to meet Justin Timberlake and NSYNC.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.